Hi, my name is Kristen and this is Kristen Craze Books. I thought it would be fun in honor of Valentine's Day to do a romance book recommendation, but I want to make it very specific and focus on a trope that I have realized I've fallen in love with. And I don't know if there's actually a name for this trope, so I decided to call it Romances with a Strong Sense of Food. And that basically means it's either set at a restaurant, on the set of a cooking show, which is one of my new favorite tropes. I just love that so much. The main character might be a foodie, they might own a bakery, they could just have a passion for food or baking in some way. I will instantly be drawn to that romance, and there are so many of them out there. So there are quite a few that I've read, and I have so many on my radar, so I'm going to share a mix of both, starting with the one that I am currently reading, and that is Love and Other Disasters by Anita Kelly. And this is actually the book that inspired this video, because I don't think I realized this was even about a cooking show until I saw it everywhere and everybody was talking about this book. And so far so good. I'm loving this. There's already a lot of humor in here, but some serious topics. But what makes it so fun is it is a romance between these two characters, and they have met on the set of a cooking show, and I think it's called The Chef Special. Yes. So I love that so much, and of course, because they're competitive, they're competing against each other, there's inherently that hate to love or rivals to lovers element of it that is just so much fun. And this is a romance between a divorced woman who just filed for bankruptcy and is trying to find her way, and then London, who is non-binary. So really sweet so far. I think this is going to be a 5-star read for me. It is a perfect book for Valentine's Day. Strong sense of food in there. And then another one that I own is Sweethand by N.G. Peltier, and actually there's a sequel to this coming out soon, and I think it's something with baking. I know I'm gonna love it. I'm gonna put the cover up here as well, and I think this is called the Island Bites series. So this is a hate to love romance. How cute is this cover? There is cake on the cover, so that tells you it's got a strong sense of food, and also there's a calico cat, so I'm bound to love this. There's also a slice of cake on the back. So this is a romance between these two characters. She owns a pastry business. She's like a caterer, and she's catering for a wedding, and he works in the music industry. And they are both standing in a wedding, and they hate each other, but of course the forced proximity makes them fall in love. And the tagline on the back says, "Love is a piece of cake," right? So there's lots of discussions about desserts in particular throughout this book, and that was one of the things I loved most about it. And I actually just want to take a moment to show you, since this is a romance video, these bookmarks that I recently got from Steph's Book Therapy. She puts it on the back. I don't know if this will focus for you, but I will link all of her information down below, her Instagram and her Etsy shop. But she just designs these book boyfriend bookmarks. So here is Adam from The Love Hypothesis, which I haven't read, but I knew I need to get this because there's so much hype around Adam. And these were reasonably priced, and I live in Canada and she's based in the US, but the shipping was still free. And then the next 4 characters I have here are from Abby Jimenez's books, which are my favorite romances. So here's Josh from The Friend Zone, Jason from the Happily Ever After playlist. I'm missing one. Oh, here he is. Got away from me. Here's Adrian from Life's Too Short, Daniel from Part of Your World, which is Abby Jimenez's newest release. It hasn't come out yet, but I did read an arc. It's my favorite book of hers. I think everybody's gonna love this, and I hope it gets the hype that it deserves. But look how cute Daniel is. And the last one is Aiden, which was a nice surprise. Aiden is from Window Shopping by Tessa Bailey, which was a huge holiday romance. Let me see if it'll focus on Aiden for you. There you go. So look at the detail. I just think these are so cute. So I will link all that information below. This is not sponsored or anything. I just thought I've been wanting to show you those for a while, and that was the perfect opportunity to do so. I also want to mention that I listen to a lot of my romance on audio and read it on my Kindle. So I don't own much of these romances, and this is the last one I have. But this is The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory, and actually this is one of the first books a publisher ever sent me, so that has a special place in my heart as well. But if you've read this Wedding Date series, you know what I'm talking about with the food element, and I've actually seen reviewers be annoyed by how much food conversation happens in here, and I completely understand. Especially in, I think it's the 3rd one, the wedding party, they eat a lot of pizza. So what happens is that her characters love food. All her characters always are eating, but it's always the same food. So in the wedding party, the two main characters, they get a lot of pizza for takeout. I know the Royal holiday, there's like an obsession with scones. And I do love that element of her books, but it can be a bit overkill. But I just love this entire series. It's fun. And if you look in the back, there are illustrations of food back here. Let me just try and focus this for you. So we have donuts on there, champagne. So yeah, she's big into the food in her romances. I think this is cheese and crackers, but I have a good time with these. I'm wondering if this series is done because I haven't heard any announcements about the next book, but I think there's 6 books in the series and they each definitely have food throughout it. Next is a YA book that is one of my absolute favorites, but I can't believe I don't actually own it. And I don't own any books by this author, despite her being one of my favorite authors, because her books are incredible in audio, and that is how I read them all. But this one is With the Fire and High, and the way the main character cooks in this, it's almost like magic. I think some people even went into this book thinking there was magical realism, but no, it's just, she has such a passion for cooking that it does feel magical. And she is a single mom, she's a teenager, and she is enrolled in a cooking class at her high school, and she really has a passion for cooking. It sends her to Spain for cooking, and it's just so beautiful. There really is something magical about the way that she cooks. And I think that With the Fire and High is the first book that made me realize how much I love when main characters have a passion for food. And this is just a really sweet romance. I thought it was really respectful. I thought it tackled some important issues, but really the food is incredible. As you can tell by the cover, it plays a big role in the story. Next is another YA romance that I find highly underrated and I think more people need on their radar, and that is Somewhere Between Bitter and Sweet by Laken Zia Kemp. And the title suggests that this has something to do with food, and it really does. So we're following 2 teenagers who are both connected to a restaurant. Her parents own this restaurant, and she's about to go to college, and she doesn't want to. She just wants to open a pastry shop beside her dad's restaurant. Her passion for food is really strong, but her parents want something different from her, and this causes a lot of tension between them. She actually moves out of her parents' home into an apartment that she can barely afford, but she really wants to chase her dreams, and she forms a connection with the restaurant's newest employee, and they both have a lot of outside conflict, but there's never very much conflict between them as a couple, which I thought was refreshing for a romance. So a lot of the problems come from the outside, but they are really strong together. It's very sweet. I know this author has a new romance coming out. I'm not sure that food's involved. I think that's more based in music, which is another trope I love. Another recommendation video I can do in the future. But the setting of this one, it is in a Mexican restaurant. So that's a very strong, important part of it. They both work at this restaurant, so the romance takes place there. And our main character has such a passion for food. She's willing to risk a lot of things to be able to cook and open her own restaurant. So I love that. And it's a really beautiful story, severely underrated. Next up is Battle Royale by Lucy Parker, and this is a really fun one. If you love Great British Bake Off, you're gonna love this one. It's actually a romance between 2 of the judges on a show that's like that, but she was once a contestant and is now a judge, and it's very much a grumpy sunshine romance, which I know is a trope many of us love, myself included. So we're getting the aspect of them judging this baking competition, which I loved. I thought that was so much fun, and we get some glimpses into how he treated her when she was a contestant, which is really fun. So they have great banter. But then they are also competing to bake the cake for the royal wedding, which is amazing. So he's more traditional and she's more unique and modern and fun. And so the bride of this royal wedding is leaning towards her, but of course the rest of the royal family wants something more traditional, so they're both competing to see who gets to bake the royal wedding cakes, which would just be a huge thing for their careers. So we're getting attacked by food and baking on all fronts here, and it's fantastic. And I know that we're getting another book in this series following, I think, the security guard and maybe the main character's sister, if I'm remembering correctly. So that'll be fun as well. But yeah, this has got major strong sense of food and baking in particular and cakes, and I just loved it so much. Next is a book that is actually a holiday romance, and I think a lot of us read it in December, but I truly do believe you can read it any time of the year, because I don't think it was really set around Christmas time or really truly based around the holidays. And it is The Holiday Swap by Maggie Knox, and this is a good mix of The Parent Trap and the movie The Holiday. So we're following twin sisters who decide to switch lives, and they each fall in love with somebody in their respective lives. So it's very much that Parent Trap aspect, and you get the holiday swap, the holiday references as well. So one of the twin sisters works on a cooking show, and she has a lot of tension with her host, and what happens is I think an iron skillet falls in her head, and she gets a concussion, and she can no longer smell. So she can no longer be the judge of this show, but she doesn't want her host to be alone, and I think they were both up for being able to host a show on their own, so she doesn't want to give him the opportunity to do that. So she switches places with her sister, who owns the family bakery. So there's so much cooking in here, from the competition show to a small town bakery. Some great vibes in here, some great romance. I had some issues with all the secrets that are being kept, but that's kind of the nature of a trope like this one, and it was a good time. Then we had the two books that I read most recently in preparation for this video, and I absolutely love them both. And the first one was Rosalind Palmer Takes the Cake by Alexis Hall. And once again, this is set on the set of a cooking show, and it's very much reminiscent of Great British Bake Off. More than any of the other ones I've mentioned, we get references to the blind bake, the technical challenge, the signature bake, all those fun things. And there's a lot of conversations about what goes into the editing of a show like this, what makes you fall in love with a contestant, how they want to weave a person's story. So I thought that was really interesting. And Rosalind Palmer is a single mom who wants to do something for herself. So she's on this cooking show, and she forms a bit of a love triangle, I will say, and it can be so frustrating at times, but it's worth it in the end. And really, I think her growth and her finding her voice and her really coming into her own with her baking and her cooking is the star of this book. It's her pushing against her parents' expectations, just embracing her love for baking and for herself and for the life that she's created for her daughter. That is wonderful. And she's actually has a best friend who is her ex-girlfriend. So Rosalind is bisexual, and there's some interesting conversations about that as well. So yeah, I thought this was a really fantastic book. I love Alexis Hall, and I hope that he writes more books around cooking, because I thought he did a really good job with this one. And then the last one that I read is actually an e-arc that doesn't come out until I think June 22nd, so I'm sorry about that. This is quite a wait, but I couldn't resist when I saw what it was about, and this is Fake It Till You Bake It. Adorable cover. This is by Jamie Wesley, and I love this. I'm so excited for everybody to get their hands on this when it comes out. Another trope I love, and another recommendation video I can do in the future, is when one or both of the characters is famous in some way, and that is definitely the case in this book. So Dominic is an NFL player, but he also owns a bakery with two other NFL players who are his best friends, and they are so different, and it's so sweet. And I hope that these other two men get their own romances. I feel like that could potentially happen, but oh, I loved it so much. And then the female character, Jada, was a contestant on a show like The Bachelor, and she turned down the proposal at the end. So she's very much hated, and through some circumstances, I won't spoil it, she ends up working at this bakery, but they got off at a wrong foot. She insulted the place, but they have chemistry. Like, they know when each other is in the room, they can feel the era change. It's just so well done. Great banter. Of course, it follows all the typical romance tropes and the third act conflict and all that, but I thought it was well done. It all made sense to me. And obviously it's set in a bakery. There's lots of discussion about cupcakes. I want to eat so many cupcakes when reading this. One of the guys, not the main character in this one, but one of them, Nicholas, is huge into baking, and he comes up with all the flavors and perfecting them. So I love that, and I'm thinking he gets his own book eventually, so that'll be really fun to read. So I'm excited for everybody to get this one. I know it's a long wait, but trust me, it'll be worth it. I've already pre-ordered a finished copy. Now this video is getting long, so I'm just going to go through some that are on my TBR. There are many, and I'm sure I'm missing some. So if you love this trope or have read books in this trope that I haven't mentioned, please talk about them in the comments. I'm always looking for recommendations. I just love this trope so much. So Savvy Sheldon Feels Good as Hell. That is not out yet, I don't believe. But I think that the main character in that inherits her grandmother's kitchen, and she falls in love with a contractor who she's hired to renovate her grandma's kitchen. So I think that could be really cute. Pride, Prejudice, and Other Flavors. This is a Pride and Prejudice retelling that has been on my TBR for ages, and obviously the flavor thing, I think cooking is a big part of that story, A Cuban Girl Guide to Teen Tomorrow. I've seen that everywhere. Lots of people love that book. Digging Up Love. This was on my January most anticipated books. It is a romance between a baker and an archaeologist, as you can probably tell by the cake on the cover, so I'm excited about that one. Delicious by Ruth Reichel. Ruth Reichel was a food critic, and then she was the editor-in-chief at Gourmet Magazine. I read her memoir, Save Me the Plums, and adored it. So good. But this is actually a romance book where she seems to be kind of the main character, because I think the main character in this book is a food critic, so I think that could be a good time. For Better or For Worse, again, this is not out yet, but look at this cover, that name. I'm so up for a punny name, and I cannot wait for this one. My Fine Fellow, that came out in January. This is a My Fair Lady retelling, but I know that the main characters in it are chefs, so that looks cute. There's spatulas and everything on the cover. That looks adorable. A Pho Love Story. I can't believe I haven't read this yet. It came out last year and it was huge, and I think it's got You Got Mail kind of vibes, competing pho restaurants. So that looks like fun. And then The Donut Trap, I know nothing about, but I do have an ALC of this one that I was sent and I want to get to, and it's got donut in the title, donut in the cover, and I believe that the main character works at a donut shop. So I'm sold on it. And there's so many more that I know I'm missing, but those are the ones on my immediate radar, the ones that I've read and loved. And don't forget to check out these bookmarks, because I just love them. Look at how cute Jason is with his guitar. And if you haven't read Abby Eminez's series, you have to do that, even though none of them revolve around food. So I hope you guys enjoyed this really specific video. I haven't done a lot of these or any of these really specific recommendations videos, but there's so many. As I was filming this, I was thinking of all the ones that I can do, especially when it comes to romance tropes. So if you enjoyed this, please let me know. I'll talk to you all soon. Bye for now.